Hello, my name is Sylvia Martin and I'm a writer and I live in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. Um, I've written 3 biographies of women who've been largely neglected in Australian literary and cultural history, but this time in my latest book I've turned my biographer's lens onto myself and had a look at that. It's published with UWA Publishing and it came out in February this year and it's called Sky Swimming. Can you see it there? The subtitle is Reflections on Autobiography, People and Place. And it's a series of meditations, if you like, essays on the enigmas of love, family, ageing, memory, home and belonging. And I'd like to read you just a little bit from the beginning to give you some idea of what it's about. Sky swimming. Sometimes the moment is perfect. Late afternoon, an isolated lagoon, water glassy, teeming with bird life, black swans, ducks, a pelican. A great egret stretches its long white neck forward as it fossicks, perfectly mirrored in the rushes on the opposite bank. Sunset begins to tint the sky. I point the camera at the water to catch the clouds reflected there, just as a solitary duck swims into view. Later, when I download the many photos I took of the lagoon that still summer evening, this is the one that stands out. Everything in it is familiar, yet the effect is entirely strange. The duck is swimming across the sky. The water's surface is visible only in the ripples extending outwards from the ellipse formed by the wake of the duck's progress. Layers, ellipses, circles, ripples, shadows, shape-shifting, mirroring. A perfect metaphor for this memoir that is not quite a memoir, more a series of reflections in which I act as a biographer of my own life. But there is a paradox. The novelist Penelope Lively observed that a lifetime is embedded. It does not float free, it is tethered to certain decades, to places, to people, and I would add to certain objects. Tethered, yet floating. Is it possible for a life to be both? As a biographer, my life is peopled with the women whose lives I have explored, as well as with my flesh and blood relatives, lovers and friends, and those women will also thread their way through the narrative. I am aware that there are stories within stories, that things are not often as they seem, that surface stories may alter as one dives deeper into the archives. As a former actor, I know that the performing arts are the most difficult to record, their ephemeral nature like catching lightning in a bottle. So too with memory, or misremembering, as Jeanette Winterson put it, because the moment is made up of what the camera cannot capture. Shape-shifting, mirroring. Places conjure many things, mountains, sea, city, country, but above all for me, houses, home and belonging. A mud brick house in the Warrumbungle Mountains is intertwined with a landscape of cypress pines and an ancient lava flow, with love in one decade and loss in another. Like the strata of rocks, houses contain layers of memory. An inner city house is advertised for sale on the internet. It is derelict and has been lived in by squatters for years, but a photo shows the cream calico curtains I sewed when we rented it 20 years ago, hanging, ragged and forlorn, from the few remaining curtain rings. A neighbour in the Blue Mountains had her old wooden cottage demolished and found behind the replacement ceiling the original ceiling patterns, painted with scenes and native flowers, Waratahs and Echo Point in the 1920s. A friend tells a similar but more sinister story. When her parents in Czechoslovakia decided to repaint their 1930s apartment, they stripped back layers of paint to discover a frieze of swastikas encircling the living room at picture rail height. Horrified, they realised they had been living with that hidden symbol of Nazism for years, and even after it was scraped off and repainted, its traces lurked beneath the shining surface. Layers. Objects are also the keepers of stories and the repositories of memory, sometimes literally so. But I'll leave that for you to read yourselves. Shadowing, mirroring. Thank you very much. Bye.